No visuals for this, just audio. 13,000 years ago, the direwolf went extinct. But recently, Colossal Biosciences has announced that they were able to genetically engineer them back into existence. Hidden in the sea of "oh, that's so cool" and Jurassic Park references are people questioning whether these actually count as direwolves, and some also wondering about the ecological purpose. I'll hit up the ecological purpose first because that's easier and shorter. These things should not be released into the wild. Obviously, their population is absolutely minuscule right now, so Colossal wouldn't even bother for probably over a decade. But even when they have the numbers, they should still stay confined. Which is weird for me to say because I fully believe mammoths and thylacines should be brought back to the wild when we get them back. But direwolves are a different case. They're not massively larger than modern wolves, but they are larger, and their overall build was thicker and more intended for things like bison and other large prey species, while modern American wolves were built more for elk and deer, while still being able to go after bison if need be. Direwolves went extinct mostly because humans started getting rid of a bunch of the large prey animals, creating a situation where modern wolves had the advantage. And remember, they went extinct 13,000 years ago, well before Europeans got to America. Colossal brought up Native Americans in one of their many announcement videos, but the fact is that even the pre-colonial world was not suitable for the direwolf. So with modern-day levels being far less than pre-colonial ones, there really is nowhere for a direwolf to succeed. At least with mammoths, they can change an ecosystem over time to become something that works better for them, but the direwolves won't be breeding the big animals they need back anytime soon. And that's assuming these even are direwolves, which is a little dubious right now due to a lack of information. Colossal claims to have made a very small number of changes to the genes of wolves to get this end result. Bear in mind, direwolves split off from the modern wolf lineage 6 million years ago and evolved completely separately. Logically speaking, this project should have required more than just a few genetic changes. In fact, direwolves and regular wolves weren't even in the same genus. And this actually provides us a way to show whether these are real direwolves or not. When you look into the genetics of modern humans, you also find DNA from other species of hominids like the Neanderthals that we got when the two species hybridized. You also see these shards of shared DNA in wolves and coyotes from when they interbreed, and these shards of DNA tend to remain there long term. Neanderthals went extinct 40,000 years ago, a much longer time than direwolves at 13,000. So if they ever did breed with modern wolves, we would see it in their DNA. But we don't, which means they didn't. So one of the things Colossal can do to prove these are direwolves is to try and breed them with modern wolves. If they aren't compatible, assuming the experiment wasn't fudged with infertile participants, then these could indeed be legit direwolves. But if they do produce pups, then it's confirmed to be complete bunk. Granted, Colossal does claim to have a scientific paper coming up that they say would show that direwolves and modern wolves were indeed closely related and did interbreed. Whether or not that's actually true remains to be seen. But regardless, another dead giveaway could end up being the spine. It's a subtle detail, but a modern wolf skeleton has the upper spine do a little curve into the lower spine, kind of like a tiny hump. Direwolves, however, had pretty much a straight slope. It's hard to see on a living animal because of all that fur, but I am very interested in what the X-rays show. But it's one of Colossal's responses that got me really thinking. They stated that genetically is not how species are defined. The reality is that species is a human idea. Most people agree that brown bears and polar bears are a different species, but polar bears are actually a recent diverged lineage of brown bears. They just happen to be white, live in the Arctic, and hunt seals. We prefer a phenotypic definition of species. Our direwolves look and act like direwolves, so we believe it's accurate to call them direwolves. And this got me thinking that Colossal actually missed a step in their process. Perhaps the biggest flaw with this entire direwolf experiment is that we don't actually know what direwolves looked like, much less how they acted, and as a result, Colossal and the public at large don't really have anything to measure how close they actually got it. Right now, everyone is just kind of guessing. What should have happened is Colossal takes some German Shepherd DNA, or some other dogs, and uses this same technology to turn it into the DNA of someone's Chihuahua. When the resulting pups are born, they can then compare it to the original and see exactly what went right and what went wrong. Get that process right, and I would trust them to be able to at least replicate the superficial stuff. But to make me believe you've got the inner workings correct, you're gonna have to turn bear DNA into a dog, or some other species who have a similar gap. And I mean a viable, able to breed with other dogs kind of dog. Get that under your belt, and then I'll definitely be giving you the benefit of the doubt. Now, I've been kinda suspect of Colossal in this video, and I do think they're probably misleading the public on this, but I also think they have legit scientists with legit goals. And I do believe they're doing mostly legitimate work. The problems here are seemingly more the result of the bosses and marketing team. Like, whether you want to call these direwolves or not, Colossal still managed to tweak the DNA of a modern species to create and reproduce the genetics of a different species that's been gone for thousands of years. That is a significant step in advancing the science behind all of this, and it should be celebrated as such. But it should also only be advertised as such. As a business, Colossal needs to keep money coming in, and given what they do, they can't consistently push out their product. So to keep that donation money coming, they have to advertise accomplishments constantly, which means every little thing gets blown out of proportion. And I will say, they need to be careful with this, because if it turns out that these aren't actually direwolves despite their claims, then Colossal could be looking at some pretty serious fraud charges from their investors. And I would hate to see good scientists get their careers derailed by some overzealous pencil pusher.